So recently I quit. And what do I mean by that? That doesn't mean I stopped showing up, doesn't mean I stopped doing the work. But I'll willingly admit that for the last maybe month and a half, I was showing up to do the work, but I wasn't 100% engaged. Thankfully, because of the entrepreneur DNA, still getting up, doing the KPIs, having the conversations, having the coaching sessions, still showing up to networking events and making a contribution and helping people connect, doing the things I normally do. But the bottom line is I wasn't all there. And I had a couple conversations this past week that reminded me of a very important lesson that I've imparted time and time again, and it hit home for me. And the reality of the matter is, over the last month and a half, maybe 2 months, I found myself in a situation where, despite the fact that I was working very hard to raise the standard, I observed a behavior from some of the people in my ecosystem that made it obvious to me they weren't there, right? They didn't get the mission, or if they got the mission, didn't want to be accountable to it. And whether it was because they had their own agendas or just didn't have an appetite for it, right? Because people can respect what you do and not necessarily be 100% on board and helping you execute. It kind of diminished my enthusiasm. Talking to individuals, prospects who didn't necessarily value what I brought to the table, right? And that's something that I have to own. Because at the end of the day, when you become an entrepreneur, at a certain point, you begin to pick your clients. You get to pick the individuals whom you work with. That's one of the advantages of doing entrepreneurship, right? And so I was working with individuals who necessarily didn't hold in high regard what I brought to the table, or just weren't in a place where they could appreciate it, or didn't see enough value in it to actually compensate what I was worth. And then, just the general malaise that comes along with that. I was feeling some kind of way about myself, and I checked out. And I had a couple conversations. One really recently where another entrepreneur was just emanating with like magic, emanating with passion, emanating with enthusiasm and belief about being a change agent and fulfilling the mission of her business. And as I was listening to her, watching her like exude this confidence, exude this, have this exuberance about her, it reminded me of the fact that I wasn't resonating that way. And it was intoxicating, right? Being around it. And in particular, what this entrepreneur shared, as well as a couple others over this past week, was that part of the reason why they show up to certain events, or part of the reason why they plug into the content, is because they cannot wait to hear the advice, guidance, frameworks, perspectives I would share to help other entrepreneurs achieve their goals and achieve their ambitions. And I can tell you, it was like soul food. It was like soul food. And it was a reminder that, look, you can be the most talented, intelligent, gifted person. You can have the best intentions, but environment matters so much. People that you surround yourself with. If you are giving, but you're in an environment where people have low ambition, if you are surrounding yourself with people who have these aspirations and can articulate these desires, but they're not willing to pay the price. If you are around individuals who are small-minded, right, they just can't grasp a bigger purpose, what'll end up happening is you'll find yourself shrinking to accommodate the individuals around you, to accommodate the space around you. And to be honest with you, that's what transpired with me. Once again, I was showing up, I was doing the work. When I say I quit, that doesn't mean I stopped doing the work. But I had checked out, if you will. I'd quiet quit on myself for a period of time. And even the most ardent, even the most motivated, the most focused of us you got to protect your peace. You got to protect your mindset. You have to get around individuals who are just as aspiring, who have big goals, big visions, who are willing to pay the price, who are willing to do the work, who are enthusiastic, supportive, and edifying of the individuals around them. And hopefully this lands where a person needs to hear this, right? Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's the people you're around. Sometimes it's the environment that you choose to place yourself in. But the beautiful thing about being a human being is, guess what? You can change environments. You can change the spaces you operate in. You can intentionally make a choice to interact with folks who either feed you and edify you or who detract from you. You can replace individuals around you, meaning you don't necessarily diss people, but you can choose to distance yourself from certain people and be very intentional about seeking out audience, finding out what other people are congregating at, getting involved in projects with people who, once again, have that vision and have big goals and aspirations, and I'll say this again, are also willing to pay the price, right? Aren't out here making excuses, blaming other individuals, but saying, I'm going to win no matter what. I've burned the bridges. I'm going to crush it at what it is that I'm doing. And that's a decision I've made. And since making that decision over the last handful of days, I have found myself again. Not that I was ever, quote unquote, lost, if you will, but once again, that fire that I channel internally and express externally was extinguished for a little bit, but I'm back. And so hopefully this serves you. Celebrate success in advance. Goodbye for now.